All right, a 10 Hut. All right, there he is. Look, he looks a little different, Ron, tonight. I don't know, but no, John, thanks for he lost a little hair, Ron. I don't know. Hey, John, thanks for filling in today. Unfortunately, I mean, but we'll tell our viewers and listeners that Ron had a little accident. He was stopped on a red light, and somebody rear-ended him. Unfortunately, he had his daughter and his wife in the car, and they suffered, minor, what we believe to be minor injuries, but it was neck and back, so you never know. So, Ron, we wish you the best, Ron. We wish your wife and your child all the best, and we hope everything works out for you. We miss you, and John was nice enough to jump in for me. So, welcome, John. How you doing tonight?
Yeah, good, man. No, I'm happy to be here. Sorry for Ron, but everything's good. We spoke to him. We think everything's good. So, yeah, I mean, that's the most important thing. So I think we're going to just go away off of the Operation Impact versus
Right.
field training. We're going to kind of just, do something else because obviously I'm going to be solely biased towards Impact. I think it'll be good. And honestly, I think I'd love to hear both of your perspectives. So we're just, I'm happy to be here and we'll go through the news. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think you probably would have liked Ron's opinion of that impact a little bit more than mine. But yeah, but yeah, we'll go. I think tonight, if we can go on a few other topics, I think I'd love to talk about the swatting or that fake call to your house. Also talk about some of the pro-Palestinian demonstrations in Crown Heights and what kind of conflict that's causing. And then also what our illustrious Council of Public Safety meeting on, car stops and searches. And then maybe we can get into that MOS discharge that happened the other night. I know you guys touched on it briefly, or you guys delved into it pretty good this morning, but just give a little of our perspective as well. So, John, maybe if we could just, so for some of the viewers that may have not heard. I mean, I hope they have. They follow you on X and everything else. So, but if you just go over a little bit of what transpired for you over the weekend.
Just real brief. I mean, we did an episode on it. It was called "You've Been Swatted" the other day. So if you guys want to learn more about that, if you didn't know about it, you could always go back watch that episode. But basically, what happened was, we had a complaint with Internal Affairs that for 18 months. A person who threatened the lives of our children, who's wasn't on duty, active NYPD sergeant, really making some unhinged posts, and for 18 months, the NYPD did absolutely nothing with it. The Internal Affairs Bureau covered up much of the corruption in our complaint that all came to fruition later on with the resignation of Ed Caban and the step down of Jeffrey Madry and a lot of other things. But we were never officially told from the NYPD who was threatening our children. And then we were released a name that someone received charges and that they're no longer with the department, but no further information. So we believe that is the name behind All Cops Are Woke. However, we don't have total confirmation on that. And I had asked the IAB investigator, the new one, like the fifth one, and I asked him, 4 days ago, well, now probably 6 days ago, I had asked him, are you refusing to take a criminal complaint for us? Because obviously a complaint should have been generated. Now, we could split hairs whether that's aggravated harassment or harassment, but I've never heard of the NYPD just refusing to take a report for something that happened in New York City, especially from one of their own. And Saturday night, cops just show up at my house, St. Johns County, Florida. And the way they came, it's like they believed there was active threats because it wasn't just one sheriff that came. It was actually a second, and both couldn't believe that I didn't call. Come to find out, which I didn't speak about on the episode, come to find out that the NYPD had given the suspect's name, who they believe is the suspect, and they also stated in the call that the victim, meaning me, is home. So it leads to two questions. And one makes the back of my hair stand up. It's like, how'd you know I'm home? I didn't speak to anyone on the phone. I wasn't posting that day. So I'm I don't think it's someone that I'm talking to that's feeding information to the NYPD's internal affairs. But is there some type of camera outside of my home? Are you surveilling my house? Or did you just completely lie and elicit a fake a response to my home, an unwanted, unnecessary police response?
Yeah, you got to check your car for trackers too. You never know. You know, these people might have put some magnetic thing under your car and they're tracking you. Who knows? I mean, it sounds very, very suspicious that they're able to know exactly what time you were home. What time was this about? This was later in the night, right?
It was about 9:30 at night. Yeah. And
Yeah.
like, you know, I'm usually never home at that time on a Saturday. Like, we're usually not like there at that time. We're usually at the dinner or with friends or somewhere else. So it was just a weird night that like we were like calling it in early. So it was kind of weird, you know. It was a really strange response, but that really makes the hair on the back of my, well, I don't have any hair, but if I had hair, it would stand up, you know.
Here's the thing, though, it's extremely dangerous. Like if it was me, right, 9:30 at night, the door. I mean, I got Ring cameras, right? Because I'm a bit of a you know, I have all these Ring cameras up, so I probably would have got alerted and known that it was the sheriff or whatever knocking on my door. However, I'm suspect. You know, I would maybe grab my gun, and that could have led to a huge tragedy, right? So you know, imagine going to that door with your gun. I mean, you know, we're taught to maybe blade the gun a little bit, put it behind our leg, but I might be answering that door with my gun because I don't even know. I didn't call the police, so I don't know if there's somebody that may have put a police uniform on. They're impersonating a police officer. You know, what are they doing there? So, you know, that could have led to tragedy, and also, you know, them just responding could lead to a tragedy. You know, I mean, I commend you for the way that you answered the door because I mean, you know, you were smart enough to take your time and probably look out and see what's going on. But geez, that could have led to something really, you know, really bad.
Not to cut you off, but I was totally off guard. Like I had just gotten out of the shower. I literally laid down and I started reading a book, Back from the Brink by Peter Moskos. So I was reading that book and I had just like, you know, and I knew I was probably going to get like 2 or 3 pages and pass out, you know, because I was that tired because we were at the beach. And I heard bang, bang at my door. And I saw it, and my kids had just like went in their rooms and like separated for the night, like in both their rooms. So I was like, what are you guys doing? And they're like, that wasn't us. And then so when I get up, I see flashlights through my door. And my first, I mean, and you know, I'm well liked, but I'm also not well liked by some, you know. So my first instinct is like, oh, let me go get my gun. Right.
Yeah.
But I yelled before I did that. I was like, who is that? And they said St. Johns County Sheriff. And I heard it, and the girl put the patch to the door. So I see it.
Yeah.
I was like, all right. And then so thank goodness I was smart enough to like take my time, you know what I mean? And not overreact, you know, or I wasn't drinking, even though I don't drink, but imagine somebody did have a drink that night or whatever it is, like, you know what I mean? You know, whatever it is. So like that was a dangerous situation on my end, on the officer's end. And then on the officer's end, just traveling there.
Right. So I can attest to that because so when I you know growing up in Jersey, I was a volunteer fireman, and there was a guy named Vinny Brock, and he was in the fire department with us. A great guy, and I joined the fire department about 1980. I don't know, were you born yet, John? In 1980?
Just born, August 27, 1980, baby.
So I celebrated your birthday by joining the fire department, and
nice.
And Vinny Brock was there. And then Vinny Brock in 1981 gets hired by the Paramus Police Department. So he would come down to the firehouse all the time while he's working in his patrol car and stuff. And then going forward 6 years later, I get on the NYPD. So we would converse all the time, you know, about what's going on in the city, you know, how's things going. And then on November 22nd in 1993, they get a 911 call, you know, like a really bad call. So he starts racing to the scene. His car spins out, and he ends up hitting a telephone pole and dying. Unbeknownst to him, that it was a fake 911 call from a cellular phone that was already shut off. So they ended up catching the guy. But that just attests, this guy, and unfortunately, Vinny was a great guy, and unfortunately, you see that all the time, right? The tragedies that happen within law enforcement, it's always to the really, really good guys. I mean, you don't want to see anybody hurt, but I mean, these guys are top of the line, and it was sad. It was sad. It was hard for me. I knew him very well. I mean, I conversed with him all the time, and this guy makes this fake 911 call, and it ends a tragedy. And that same incident, God forbid, the NYPD making that call to your house, and these guys thinking there's a need to rush there immediately, that puts them in harm's way also. So it puts you in harm's way, your family, and the responding officers. I mean, it was really bad. And the irony of the whole thing was that Vinny was in the police department, and they didn't, in the Paramus, it's a small department, right? I mean, I think about 160 or so. But they didn't have a line of duty death program. And Vinny actually worked on it and developed the whole plan. He was in the color guard and everything else, and he developed the whole plan. And unfortunately, ironically, he was the first one to, be part of that plan. So, I mean, it was tragic all around, but it just attests that whoever did that to you is a fool, and there should be repercussions,
And that's the thing that bothers me. I'm like, all right, is this sergeant just a moron? Like, is it possible? And, being a supervisor for over a decade in the police department, I could say that, yes, there are some dumb people that have done dumb things, but that's a little the time of night. Not, again, I don't know. Do you know I'm there? Do you not know I'm there? If you know I'm there and you're surveilling me, you just gave up that you're surveilling me. And if you don't know I'm there, you just made a crime. You lied. You elicited a false response. And would you really send a cops to another cop's house knowing that he's armed without giving him the information? And then the way that it was transmitted to St. Johns County Sheriff, it was a hurried response. Because, the first deputy I had gotten there, she was kind of like, we kind of danced, right? I'm like, hey, what's up? Come in. I'm thinking something's going on in the neighborhood, and they're like asking, can I see your camera or whatever, So like, I didn't know what was going on, and she's like, well, you tell me. I'm like, you came here. What do you mean? Me tell you? Like, what do you what's up? Like, what do you need? And she's like, you didn't know that we were coming here? I'm like, no. She goes, the NYPD said you were being threatened, and we needed to come here to take a report for you. I'm like, yeah, no. And then the corporal comes behind her. I let him in, and the first thing she says is, she goes, he didn't know that that he didn't call us here. He didn't know that they sent us here. And he's like, you didn't know they sent us here? He's like, I came here because they made it sound like something bad was going on the way it came over. And I'm like, nah, dude. I was like, this is 18 months ago, and they've done nothing with it. Like, and it has nothing to do with you guys. It has absolutely nothing to do. I don't know why they would do that. Like, so to me, I'm like, is it that the sergeant's an idiot, or is it that this was retaliation by the upper echelon? And honestly, the way they've been moving for the last 18 months, and probably even a little bit longer than that, it's clear as day to me that it's retaliation.
Yeah. No, and I could easily see, like, I think I had mentioned it when you guys were doing the podcast, that to me it was he got direction from somebody to do that. I don't think on his own, like, he would pick up the phone and say, hey, let me today make this call and irritate John. So if he got it, he's gonna be the fall guy. He's gonna be the guy that gets fired for it, because none of those guys are gonna say that we never told you to do that, and we don't know why you did that. So it just breeds corruption right there. It's bad. It's bad. Why would you do that to another? I don't care whether you like, love, or hate, but you don't do that to another person, and especially with their family, right? That was something that we always protected. You always protected the family, no matter what. You could hate the guy, but you never did anything against their family. And I mean, this just has bad things about it all around.
Oh yeah, I would never mess with anybody's house that I don't like. Like, I would never do that, And if I heard of someone doing it, even if I didn't like them, I would put a stop to that immediately, And
right.
And just like the last thing on it, it's oh man, I just lost my train of thought. What the hell was I about to say? Oh, the last thing on it is like, well, are you gonna really are you really going to take that upon yourself to do? You know that I go out on
Yeah.
social media. You know I'm very critical of the department. You know I have a big reach. You know that the podcast is followed by a lot of different entities. Why would you shoot? Like, I don't personally believe that any cop is dumb enough to say, you know what? Screw him. I'm going to do this. And I'm not going to ever hear anything about this. I think that
Right.
you knew, like, whoever, like, I think he knew exactly what I was going to do. I was going to file a counter complaint and I was going to go right online to defend myself and protect my family. And that's what I did. And I don't see any cop wanting that heat, any cop, any sergeant. So to me, it had to be ordered. It had to be.
No, the only thing we used to do is we would send 30 pizzas to a guy's house, or we'd have them drop off a truckload of rocks right in the guy's driveway, and then they would usually get the message. So that was the only thing you did. You didn't send cops to that, So, and I mean, I've been involved with some of the swatting where they call, especially in some of the and that's really scary because you're going into a building, you think it's a hostage job or something else. You're all fired up, you're ready to go. You're on your A game, and then you come there. I'm sure that that sheriff and the corporal, they were fired up, they were ready to go because that call is telling them there's priority, and if there's mention it's a law enforcement, I think they step it up a little bit. So geez, that was rough.
Oh yeah, but they did a great job, and shout out to St. Johns County Sheriff. I mean, they were not utmost professionals. They even asked oh, you want us to step up patrols here? And I'm like, it's happened 18 months ago. Like I don't want to, I don't want to waste your time. I'm all right. I just it's just not your report. It's just something the only reason I asked the sergeant is because I just can't believe that they would act like this and not take a report and not properly investigate it. And if they do that to one of their own, imagine what they're doing to civilians. It's disheartening. So yeah. So shout out to them though. Shout out to St. Johns County Sheriff.
Yeah, no, I've never had any issues with them, the sheriffs and stuff down there. I'm down in Manatee County, and nothing but gentlemen's. I mean, even when I had to get my licenses changed and stuff, I license plates 100%. They were very helpful and stuff. So yeah, it's crazy. But John, also in the news, you see that there's some pro-Palestinian demonstrations, literally in Crown Heights, right? So I mean, I think we have some videos here. It just seems like it's kind of erupted a lot worse than we think. I mean, here they're in the streets, they're fighting with each other. I often question whether or not what's their intent, because usually when you're doing a demonstration, first of all, you're not supposed to be in the street, right? Unless you have a permit and stuff. So I'm going to assume they don't have a permit, but now they start, going after people, causing disruptions. It kind of reminds me back when things happened up at Columbia University, where it just kind of got out of hand. Like the people couldn't walk down the street. And then more recently on your podcast, you and Eric, spoke about that one officer taking that female out, right, as he walked her out, surrounded by everybody. I like I said, I think he did a phenomenal job. That he was able to walk her out and push people back. So I just think it's kind of getting, the tension is getting really high, and I'm not sure what's really going to happen here. I mean, what do you think? Do you think that we're coming to a boiling point here? I mean, especially in the summer, right? We always seem to think that it's hot out and then tempers get a little hot.
I mean, I'll be honest, I'm surprised that it hasn't gotten much worse already. I mean, this has been going on a very long time, but it's scary leading into the summer. So there was a little die down this winter as opposed to the prior winter, right, where it was just every night.
Right.
And I blame this solely on Eric Adams. I lay all of this at the feet of Eric Adams. He, compared himself to Dinkins. I was a kid in the 80s when Yusef Hawkins was killed, and I lived on 69th Street. Yusef Hawkins was killed on 69th Street, and every Sunday there were mass protests by Al Sharpton and his crew. They came to my neighborhood. They're like, We're not going to let you Italians get your sauce and go to church. And so the tensions were high, very, very high. But I'll tell you, there were no interactions like this happening in Bensonhurst. Like the police department had both the neighborhood on lock, and they had Sharpton and his crew on lock, and they did not let them intermingle. They had those protests, which was a very volatile time in New York City, coming off the height of the Crown Heights. I mean, and this, we're talking 88, 89. I mean, and then I go into the department and I've seen so many. Here's a Terrell Harper. You know, this guy, you know, he's like, basically he puts a banner on. To me, there's no way that this guy is not making money protesting. Whatever protest it is, that's the side he's on. They're causing chaos, and we let this guy run around and literally run in people's faces. But like, this is a huge public safety failure. And honestly, I'm shocked it hasn't been worse and worse incidents where there's been loss of life. But we're headed there. We're headed there. And Eric Adams, for these last 2 years, and the upper echelon of the NYPD have proven themselves incapable of allowing people to have First Amendment activities without letting it turn violent and without letting it turn illegal.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think the Crown Heights riots was, yeah, you said it, the date was back, what was it, 93, I think you said, was it 90? No, 90s. I forget now the exact date, but yeah, I mean, that stemmed from, that tragic accident, right? It was back in 91. Tragic accident.
Right?
What's that?
I think his name was Yanko Rosenbaum, the kid. He got
right.
ran over.
Yeah. I think what happens is that's who got killed later on. But there were two Guyanese immigrants. There was a Grand Rebbe, and the Grand Rebbe had a police escort, no less. Or I don't know if it's police escort, but they said there was lights. They ran a light. There was another vehicle that was being driven, and they ended up not making the light, so they blew the light. And when they blew the light, they got hit and pushed onto the sidewalk, and that's when they hit the two Guyanese children. I think one was 7, and I think the other one might have been 2, I think, but. One died at the scene, actually, and they ended up taking him away. It was for the Rebbe, and then all hell broke loose. I remember going out to those and being put in a van and sitting there and waiting and being deployed, and it was just it was really, really chaotic because you never knew where anything was going to show up. And then I believe it in 1993, the mayoral race, because Dinkins failed to do anything with that and just kind of let it run its course. That basically cost him the election. So if Eric Adams, I don't think he's going to win the election anyway right now, but if Eric, it's just another nail in the coffin, in my opinion, right now, because if he doesn't do anything, if he doesn't stop this, if he doesn't tell the police that you got to enforce things, and he doesn't tell the DAs that you have to prosecute these things, it is going to continue to fester, and there will be violence. It's evident that. And I think with the Crown Heights riots, it didn't even take the police or the mayor or anybody else. I think it was Black and Jewish leaders, and they developed some outreach program, and they came together as a community, and they kind of dealt. Now I don't know if that's possible with the Palestinian demonstrators. I personally, when I look at the Palestinian demonstrators, I see that a lot of them might be just getting paid by somebody to be there. Because I see a lot of people that are just, almost see like the Black Lives Matter people now have a new course of action, and they're marching with this. And we know that those people would get money. They would get extra money if they got arrested and things. So I just think that it's getting bad. And also with the Hasidic community, I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's called an Eruv, especially on the Sabbath. They are, that's on the Sabbath, they're not allowed to use any type of vehicles, electronics. I mean, you've probably been there where they asked you to come in and turn the light on, right? You always heard that story. Could you come in and turn my light on? And they would have to, so they can't use transportation going to the synagogue or the shul. So they have to stay within and the boundaries of this eruv. So now if these Palestinian marches block that, it's going to be a huge conflict because their main goal is only to get to the synagogue and pray. That's all. Look, they're not looking for conflict, and if they're deliberately doing that, it's gonna erupt. And last thing I'll say about it before I throw it back to you is that people in the city in America have to realize that in Israel, the whole thing started with Hamas, right? It wasn't started with Israel. I mean, October 7th, a year ago, that was started by Hamas. So all that violence started there. It wasn't started by anybody from Israel. And a lot of the people that are here have descendants from the Holocaust and everything else. And their saying is it will never happen again because they've been victimized enough. So I think that I already got pretty political, but I think that it's going to erupt.
Political, so
so first of all, I think it's going to be the downfall or the continual downfall of Adams, and I just think that if the police don't get a handle on it, and I'm not going to say Shell's going to do anything or Mr. Safety is going to do anything. Maybe he might have another jacket with maybe a Jewish writing on the back. I don't know. Maybe that's something we should get him, and then he'll take it, or Palestinian jacket, whoever he's marching with. But we'll see. But I just think that it needs policing, and it needs old time policing.
Yeah, 100%. And you got to think, like, I know tensions are high. Here's 1991 Crown Heights riot, right?
Right.
But these were real, like, we're talking about murders. We're talking about, like, real racial tension that happened back then, right? 1991, 88. There was some, like, real racial divide in the city. Here, there's a divide between religions. But a lot of the people that were saying they're paid agitators, right? We just showed you the one guy. I mean, he was BLM, then he was for Drag Story Hour, like whatever leftist protest, he's there, he's wearing the flag. They change it. Like he could change from one protest to the other. So, and I think we know so much more about policing now. We have so much better technology. And, I respect everyone's First Amendment right, and I respect everybody's right to protest. However, you're not dictating where you get to protest. There is no way. I don't care if I was a cop, if I was a sergeant, wouldn't matter my rank. I'm like, they're not standing directly in front of the synagogue or church or mosque. They're going across the street. We're going to barricade them in over there, and no one comes out of that barricade. If they do, they're getting arrested. You will have your First Amendment right. You could protest all you want, but I'm going to restrict that.
Right.
Sorry if that's what it is, but guess what? Nobody's getting hurt on my post. There's not going to be any violence amongst people. And that's just how I feel like we've just gotten very soft with our ability to do that.
I agree wholeheartedly. Yep. We need the police, it's not going to stop unless we police, it's just, I mean, like you said, if you don't have a permit and stuff and you're in the street, I mean, that violates it, right? So, I mean, both sides need to calm down a little bit if they can, and then it needs to be enforced, because otherwise it's just going to continue, and it's not going to go good. It's definitely going to erupt,
Oh yeah, they need clear parameters, and when those parameters break down, people need to get arrested, and it keeps the crowd in line, like the mob mentality. I remember one New Year's, I'm on my post. I'm on 4, 2, and 8. I think Ron might have been. I think Ron was. I think he was the inspector that night that had the detail. And these protesters come up from the train station, right? They just pop up right outside of Bryant Park, and I'm like, no, you ain't protesting here. Go right back down there. They're like, yeah, but I was like, yeah, but nothing. This is a closed zone. Go somewhere else. I sent them all down, and one of the cop goes, you can't do that. I was like, all right. I was like, call up on me. I don't know. Like, they ain't protesting here. I mean, I can't do that. I did it. It's over. Yeah. Keep the peace, bro. Like, that's, I'm not saying, I'm not putting you in jail for what you're saying, but you're not going to dictate exactly where you'll be standing and how you'll be yelling. Absolutely not. And I think that's what's missing today is like we're letting people get way too close to each other. We're letting these groups get way too close to each other because we don't want to offend either side, because they're playing politics. They're playing politics with the Jewish community. They're playing politics with the Palestinian community. Eric Adams is just like Relly Rel. One day he's got the Palestinian flag. Next day he's got the Israeli flag. You know, like he's not helping anybody. The way you help that is like, hey, listen, I respect both of you. This is the rules. You step out of them, you're getting arrested. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're the grand rabbi. I don't care if you're the head of the mosque. It doesn't matter. You come out of here, you're getting arrested. That's it.
Yeah. No, I agree with Bronx 90 NYC right there. I think they're paid agitators, that they don't give a crap about religion. You know, they're just there just to make, you know, whatever money they're getting. That I can remember during the George Floyd riots, I was in, I forget it's a precinct that's right off of Flatbush, I think it is. But we were standing there. It's right. It's a little up from the Barclay.
7-8.
7-8. So I was standing in the 7-8. That they're marching down the street. Some of them have like these vagina hats on. Some of them are saying, you know, some of them are saying, hey, you know, let's legalize marijuana. Other ones are saying, hey, I can't breathe. I'm like, even these protesters, this is for George Floyd. They can't even get the protest. They don't even know what they're protesting for. They're just marching down the street arbitrarily, saying stupid stuff. It's like everybody was just, hey, here's your money. You go out and march down the street. You know, it was ridiculous. I couldn't believe it. And I'm standing in the back, and I'm just like watching it. This is like, it was like a show, right? It was like, what? Well, you know, who's going to come up? I was like, oh, I felt like I should judge the costumes. Like, who's going to come up with the next costume? You know, it was just like, at least come up with a unified message. But, you know, they just walked down the street. It was crazy, you know?
No, they have no idea what's going on. You know, I've saw like tons of videos in New York where like you got the guys like the Relly Rel, you know, what you're saying from the river to the sea, you know, what river, what sea?
Yeah.
You know, they don't even understand the conflict. They don't understand, like they couldn't pick out Israel or Palestine on a map. Yet they're there every day protesting. Like something's not right about this. Somebody should look into that. You know, and again, it's in my opinion, they are using taxpayer funds through third parties and paying these agitators and these organizers. And Eric Adams again failed on that, because remember, I was blasting them for a while in the beginning, about a year. I was saying, when are the organizers of these planned shutdowns of critical infrastructure going to get arrested? And so what they started doing, the NYPD, is changing their messaging, where Shell and Daughtry started saying, they started going on the news and saying, we're going to get these organizers and all this other stuff. And that never came to fruition. You know, it's just, I let up on it because I was like starting to believe them. I was like, oh, maybe they are going to do it. And then like they just, boom, it just never happened.
Yeah, no, he talks the talk, but he doesn't walk the walk. It's always what he says and everything else. But no, I don't think truthfully, I don't think he knows what he's really doing. He just kind of throws it out there this is what I should say. This sounds good. And then am I giving the same message that, you know, my mentor Adams is asking for, you know, my coach, my life coach, or whatever it is. So yeah, I think it's just it's all BS. And I think truthfully, like I said earlier, Adams has got to step up, and the leadership. Tish is great to fire somebody real quick, but she's not fast to stop this disorder, right? I mean, you know, what's her legacy going to be? Oh, the city burned down, but you know what? I fired, 10 people. Oh, look how great I am, you know?
Yeah. We got to be careful with Tish, though, because she has legal transcripting everything we say on here to make sure we don't defame her. So, it's like, but yeah, no, I agree with you. Yeah, it's easy to take away guys' meals. It's totally easy to, say you're not doing this if you show up late. Where that's another thing. You show up to Mobile Field Force late. You show up to All Out late. You're going to be permanently transferred to that command. It's like things happen, man. I mean, like, how much abuse are you going to give these people? Like, you have no place to go to meal. You have no place to do anything. And it's just threat after threat after threat. And the leadership's not there. I mean, honestly, like if I had to if I had to judge who's probably would be a better cop, I'm going to say Jessica Tisch would be a better cop than Eric Adams, because he's had 3 years and I haven't seen one thing from him, man. I haven't seen one thing at all. You know, guys are celebrating the contract right now, and I'm just laughing. This was the contract you had 3 years ago, and they just sat on it and waited 3 years, and they're like, "Oh, okay, we're gonna sign it now." It's like, what did he do? He did nothing. You know. Oh, and you got the 12-hour tours, which they said you weren't going to get.
Right, they were fighting. They figured they didn't want that, and that was the big fight, right? Well, hey, the city at the end of this whole thing just threw in these 12-hour tours. All right, and then but now we're gonna settle the contract and we're gonna agree to it. And you know what? Some people are gonna get 12-hour tours. So I mean, you could have just easily agreed to it earlier. I mean, I don't know. It's just it's in a bad way, and I don't think anything's going to happen till after the election, really. I think that it's just going to be, status quo.
But before we get off that topic, just one last thing. I've been getting a ton of calls from people in the Jewish community, people in the Brooklyn community, and they brought up a fair point. And, what they're talking about is Chief Richie Taylor. Chief Richie Taylor, career community affairs guy. I didn't look up his arrests, but if I had to bet money, I would say it's under 10. I would say he's pulling Eric Adams numbers. I've never seen the guy do anything. I worked in Brooklyn South for a while. I've never seen the guy other than being in community affairs. He makes it all the way up to chief. He's the community liaison. There he is right there. He's there at this ambulance. They're actually dedicating an ambulance while there are riots in Crown Heights. So shouldn't he be and that's what the Brooklyn community is saying. It's like, why is this guy a chief? Why is he never when we need him here? And why, when everything kicks off, is he nowhere to be found? And I think it's a fair criticism. I think it's a super fair criticism. It's like, the people that we employ for community relations or relations to the Jewish community or to the Muslim community, where are they when the shit's hitting the fan? Where are the violence interrupters? Where is all the millions of dollars? Where are these people? And I'm like, and so I got a lot of calls from a lot of prominent people in Brooklyn South, and they're not happy with Chief Richie Taylor. And honestly, I don't blame them, because what are you doing? Who's in charge? Here, look, this is, could you put the volume on here?
You guys should shame on you. This down. You guys should have shut it down. Shut it down. Okay. You know what the craziest thing is? You know what the craziest thing is? You know what got him out of bed. All you guys are here. Why? Because you came to me. We're interviewing. This is the officer, by the way. This is the officer, guys. You're close to him. This police officer the whole night has been inciting violence. This police officer the whole night has been inciting violence.
So, I mean, yeah, so that's basically it. But he looks like he has no idea what's going on, no clear plan. He's not trying to open up lines of communication with the community on either side. And then it's like, so what do we have a community affairs bureau for? What are they doing? What do we have violence interrupters for? What are they doing?
So I agree with what John Latanzio said, a retired E-man, great guy, good test taker, and a yes man. So listen, I know Richie Taylor.
Yeah.
I know him. And my first experience with Richie, he's a really nice guy. But, my first
nice guy, 100%.
Yeah, no, he's a nice guy. He's a good guy. He
no business being a chief of the police department.
Probably
no business being a cop, honestly.
The first experience I had with him when he was a lieutenant, and I may have been an inspector in ESU, and they went to a jumper job. So there was a female Jewish woman that was threatening to jump, and the ESU was talking to her, and they couldn't establish a rapport. So Richie, as a lieutenant, says, I want to talk to her, or you got to tell her this and tell her that. Now, you can't tell ESU guys who are trained in everything that they do that you don't tell them what to do. If you didn't go to H&T school and you didn't go through the ESU emergency service unit specialized training school, you really have no say in it because those guys are the expert. So he gets mad at them because they don't listen to him. So he comes down to Floyd Benefield and he makes his case to me. So I was like, Richie, I'm not, he was looking for blood or whatever. I said, I can't do it. I'm not doing that, Richie. These guys did what they were supposed to do. They did their job and they did it right. Okay. Because like I've said before on the podcast, they've yelled at me when I've been on the floor and they were right. I shouldn't be talking. I should have went downstairs or whatever. So if they're going to tell you something, they're on the money. So onto that, he became liked by a few people. He became in inspections. He went back to community affairs. I think he's tied up with Madry, and I think he's also tied up with Kaz and stuff. So he blew up all the way to chief. Extremely, like well, let's quote Eric, right? He got a little rocket fuel there. So maybe not as much rocket fuel. He didn't get a full tank full of rocket fuel like other people, but there was a good amount of fuel. So and that's that. I would be curious to see how he handles his jobs when he's the duty chief. If he has the duty. Some chiefs are excused. So, but yeah, I mean, what was he doing there? He was on his phone. I mean, you need to you make your calls. I hope you're calling for backup or whatever, or you're getting people there. But you need to and talk to the community. You need to get stuff going. But I don't know.
Yeah. Mullen says he has 26 total arrests, but in fairness, he's a superstar compared to Tariq Shepard and Eric Adams. And you know what? Yeah, I mean that's the standard, right? Sarah says Taylor has absolutely no business being that rank. He couldn't supervise a lemonade stand detail. Politics. Yeah, I mean, sorry. I mean, and clearly you see from all the videos and all the stuff that we've been getting about him, the community's upset. They're like, you know what? Like, what's going on here? What's happening? Eric Adams sees him as a ticket to the Jewish vote for re-election. And from what I'm seeing, it doesn't appear that he actually has that clout.
No.
So, but listen, it is what it is. I'll say, plenty of nice guys I wouldn't follow across the street. He's one of them,
No, exactly. No, I saw knows, but I guess he's breaking my chops. He's asking me how many collars I have. Can Marlon, can you run my arrest? I would just like to put that up, see how many I have, Marlon. If you're able to do that, I can tell you how much I want, but I just want a private investigation on that. And I trust Marlon to do his investigative work and get that number for me if he can. Oh, he can't do it. All right, Marlon. Listen, Hassan, I have approximately 330 arrests for 7 years as a cop. So I was out there. I did it. So the other thing, they weren't all felonies. Some were misdemeanors. And there were a few of those BS violations, but I had to do what I had to do. So, but I'm happy that Richie's doubled the score of Eric Adams. So, I mean, I'm pretty impressed by that. So,
yeah.
Man.
Nobody says I was a nice guy. 100% up. Not true at all, bro. Not true at all.
I'll defend my record anytime. So, but if we maybe want to just move a little forward now, I think we're good with that. I think we've covered that pretty much. Yeah. I just want to maybe we could play the video from the public safety meeting. It was on what was it? The car stops and searches and stuff. I think it was the female councilwoman, right? She went off on a little bit of a rant there.
Oh, Tiffany Caban. Yeah. That was the this was the city council hearing on public safety, and they had transportation bureau there, Chief Obey, and telling and a majority minority police department and a majority minority city that the NYPD is racist.
A black person gets stopped versus a white person, they are being searched 10 times more. What is it about their behavior that is different, that is rising to the level of a search consistently 10 times more than a white driver?
Well, since there's no way to review, at least right now in this moment, every single stop that is contemplated in this vehicle arrest report, I cannot answer
But we
that.
do know that cops have discretion.
If you keep using this like it's some weapon, let me make sure to clarify for you. Yes, of
It is
course.
a weapon for the police force to continue to disparately criminalize black and brown drivers. It is a weapon. That's exactly what I'm saying.
So let me explain, right, that of course they have discretion. If you're talking to a human being and they're like, I'm trying to get to my daughter's recital, I didn't mean to go 8 miles an hour over the speed limit. I want an officer to be able to have a conversation with that person and choose
That's a really
education.
beautiful example, but it does not explain why black drivers are being searched 10 times more than white drivers. What is it? Are black drivers behind the seat acting more dangerously? Do all of those black drivers have weapons that are visible to the naked eye when the officer approaches? Or is it the officer's discretion in what they're describing or seeing as quote unquote furtive or erratic movement, right? Like we want to dig into DeBoer. We could dig into DeBoer.
Let's do it. Have you watched Body Worn? I know you have as a
Yes,
public
I have.
defender, right?
So, but explain to me why the disparity. Just
Have
why
you
the
ever
disparity?
watched a body worn camera where you're like, ooh, I think I understand what the police officer's talking about in their paperwork?
Sometimes, sure.
So there is
Does it account for 10 times? Are you saying that
There's a
officers
meeting of the
feel that
minds
way
on
around
this
black
issue.
people more often than not? You're making my point for me.
What I'm saying is
You should
that
probably stick to answering the question of why is there a disparity between the use of force and the search and seizure of black and brown drivers versus white drivers? That's what I want the answer to.
So, council member, what I'm saying is that any comment that explains a massive type of analysis in a quick 45-second explanation is not only inaccurate, I would have no faith in it, but also it's a disservice to you.
Do you
and
think
to
that it's a
council.
problem? Do you
I
think the
what
disparity is a problem?
I can't comment because I don't know the individual factors that are going into account in all of these individual stops. But as you yourself have said, you have seen body worn camera.
Okay.
You understand what some of these things
Let me ask you this hypothetical. Let's say you're walking down, you're walking into a public park and you see trash piled 20 feet high. And I asked you, hey, do you think that trash is a problem? And you go, I don't know, because I can't tell you about all the circumstances about how every single little piece of trash ended up getting piled there and then got piled and piled and piled. So I can't answer that. That's what you're saying right now. When I tell you that black and brown people are being beat up, searched, arrested 10 times more than white people, and you're sitting here and telling me you can't even acknowledge that that's a problem. I'm done.
I don't know. Where does she get her stats? I'd love to know. Like, she's just rambling on. You know, does she have stats about that? I mean, everything's on body worn camera nowadays. So I would just love to know where her stats are. And I just think that she didn't even allow anybody. They answer. I mean, Obi was sitting there like she was the deer in the headlights. Like she had nothing to say. What happened there?
You know, I think, like, honestly, the representation for the police department is so lacking. You know, I think Obey's looking at her like, wow, this girl's crazy and has no idea what she's talking about. And she doesn't like want to upset her. But I think the lawyer like did a horrible job. I mean, so I think Tiffany Caban's stats are right. I think she's right that the majority of people that issued summonses and stopped vehicles are black and brown. But I mean, I believe it's an easy explanation. And I don't know why someone that's making big money in the legal bureau can't explain it. I don't know why the chief that's making big money can't explain it. I don't know why anyone in the police department that was at city council that day couldn't explain it. They knew where this was going to go. I mean, this is what city council does. They try to paint a majority minority police department out to be racist. They do it under the guise of that, well, you're putting black and brown people in uniform in a systemically racist department, and they target minorities at a higher rate. But we showed it today. Like, we showed the statistics. Like, if you're black in New York City, you're over 800% more likely to be murdered on the streets in New York City. So does that mean that we should over police you because of that fact? No, but the fact remains that the overwhelming majority of violent perpetrators, violent assaults, murders, shootings, rapes, robberies, larcenies, They're black and brown. The overwhelming majority is. So it makes perfect sense that any type of enforcement activity is going to be majority black and brown. Like, you're not just going to, like, her argument is basically like, how come you got no Hasidics in there? Sprinkle in a few Hasidics. It's like, well, what do you want me to do? Like, we're policing based off of a crime. So, like, I think the representation's lacking, and it harms the cops further. It puts them in further danger because people listen to Tiffany Caban and they're going to get fired up. And when the police can't respond and they can't give a proper answer, a truthful, honest answer backed by data, it makes the situation worse for the cops on the ground.
Yeah, no, he definitely didn't have all his ducks in a row there, because he could have easily answered it. And I agree 100% with you. If you look at the city is a majority of the city is made up of black and brown people. I mean, they're well over the 50% mark. So it's not unlikely that the representation of traffic stops would be higher for them. I think later on it's quoted that that blacks have less cars or whatever. So I mean, you could play the game back and forth. In my opinion, when you do a traffic stop, I stopped the car because of the infraction. If the guy blew the stop sign or blew a red light, I wasn't looking at the driver. I was looking at the car, because I'm pulling the car over. I don't want to. I'm not concentrating on the driver. I got to make sure that the car that blew the light is the car that I pull over. So that's the car I'm going to get behind. I'm going to pull him over. Now, if the guy is black or brown, so be it. If he's white, so be it. That's just the way it is. My philosophy was on a car stop that if I walked up to you and I said, "Hey, I stopped you because you went through the light at Bruckner and Hunts Point," he says, "No, I didn't. You're wrong." You got a summons, because I'm going to prove I'm right. If you were honest with me and say, "Officer, I'm sorry. I didn't see it. I was looking to the left. I didn't see the light change, and I went through. I apologize." All right, then that's what I was looking for, honesty. The other thing is, nowadays they don't even want to roll their windows down, right? And you see some of these videos from outside states where they'll put the license plate, not the license plate, the license up against the window, and when you refuse to roll that down, well, guess what? Back in my day, that's when you got 10 summons. I can tell you a quick story. So a guy comes up. He comes up the wrong way. Yeah, even Hunts Point, they used to always come up the wrong way. So we would sit there, obviously, because we had to get our quota. Sorry, Ron, performance indicator. And he would come up he came up the wrong way. And when he saw us, he backed out and drove around and like literally spun out, tried to go to a couple other stop signs the back way. And then we pull him over and he's giving us a hard time. Like, "Why'd you pull me over? I didn't do anything wrong." I'm like, "You got to be kidding me," right? So my partner, Mark Sedrin, a great guy at the time, says, "Hey, buddy, we're going to give you enough summonses that we're going to suspend your license." So I was like, "All right." So I gave him every summons I could think of, driving unsafely, backing through an intersection, or the whole kit and caboodle. So I get a notification to AAB, right? The adjudication for a traffic court, AAB. So I go there, testify, go down the whole gambit. The guy has really no defense at all. And the judge says, "Okay, I find you guilty on all the summonses." And he goes, "Okay." And the judge says, "Well, since you have so many summonses, you have previous, I'm going to suspend your license." So I said, "Damn, we were on the money with that one." But I mean, that's a quick story. But you didn't pull people over because of their because what color they were. Sometimes they have tinted windows. You can't even see in the car to know who's driving it. Oh.
Yeah, you can't, even if they don't have tinted windows, you barely could tell, depending on the lighting in the day. There were plenty of times I thought I was pulling over like a young kid, and I pull up the car, it's like grandma, and I'm like, "Oh," I was like, "Oh, well, slow down, see you later." And I'm like totally wrong, and she had no tints, or like there's just depends, like that's why the whole racial profiling thing. So I posted that video on Instagram. Edwin Raymond responded to it. And he said, is your position that Black and Latino people aren't policed more aggressively? And I basically just said to him, I said, my position is based on the crime data. It makes sense that black and brown people are disproportionately have encounters with the police. Like what, and I was like, I'm open to a debate on that, and these are demographics from first quarter of 2024 from whitecollarfraud.com. But like, let's just go suspect demographics. Black individuals account for 60% of murder suspects and 58.2% of robbery suspects. Hispanic individuals comprise 38.2% of rape suspects and 36.7% of assault suspects. 82.3% of black homicide victims were killed by black suspects. 74.2% of Hispanic rape victims were assaulted by Hispanic suspects. Similar patterns persist across other crime categories. Combined impact, black and Hispanic individuals representing 50% of New York City's population account for 87% of murder victims, 92.7% of robbery suspects, 84% of felony assault suspects. So, I mean, the data is there. You want to talk, and it makes sense. It's like, all right, we have violent crime. What is that demographic? Okay, what is your activity based per that violent crime? Oh, it matches the data. What, shocker! You guys are racist, and that's what Tiffany Caban's saying. That's what Lincoln Ressler's saying. That's what the majority of city council are saying, that we should ignore all of that other data, but just hang on this one point and paint that the police department's systemically racist.
That would be like Louis Mangino when he killed the banker. That would be like us saying, all right, he's white, but we're going to stop black people because, we're racist. No, you're going to stop people based on the crime. And that was my argument all the time with UF-250s. Now, I know they got out of hand because they became, stop, question, frisk got out of hand because it came just a CompStat issue, in my opinion. It totally got, it lost its meaning. But if you look at the people that were stopped and questioned based on the people that committed the crime. Now I don't make the description of the perpetrator on the complaint report. I take that from the complaint. So, or witnesses, if it's a shooting, right? If it's a homicide, I take that from witnesses. So whatever they give me, I put on. So if then the anti-crime team looks at those the complaint reports and says, well, all right, we're looking for this male black or this male white, that's who they're going to target. And that's the way it should be. So it has to be done. It's just, to me, it's basic, policing 101. If that's the perpetrator, that's who you go after. It doesn't make sense what they say, but yeah, it's quick to paint a broad brush and say we're all racist and that we don't care. No, we're looking for the real people. I love what TC's putting right there, right? I'm looking for a cheeseburger. I don't go to church. I go to McDonald's. Absolutely, right? That's what you want to do. You're going after your target. You just don't arbitrarily run around with you like a chicken with its head cut off and looking for everything else. No, it's ridiculous.
And then the other thing that they never look at is the community demographics. They don't break it down by communities either. You go to the 1, 2, 3, and I always said it. I did anti-crime and field intelligence in the 1, 2, 3. They would never look at my UF-250s. You know why? Because 97% of them are male whites I stop. So if I'm racist, then I that should show that I'm racist. I'm stopping 97% based upon what they're saying. I'm racist against whites, and I also hate males. Right? Like that was my 250s. And I don't even think like. And then there were other demographics in there. It would be Hispanic, then Asian Pacific Islander. I don't think black people accounted for 0.08% of the stops I made. And then you take it over to like a Brooklyn command, like the 6-6, where I was a sergeant in. Depending on the specific part of the neighborhood you in, you might be 250 in all Asian Pacific Islanders because you're in a Bangladeshi community, right? You go down the block to a Russian community, all male whites, right? Switch it over to 8th Avenue, all male Asians. Go over to the other side of 8th Avenue, all male Hispanics, and so like that's the thing that never I always I'm like, this is the stupidest conversation we're having with the dumbest people, because we're not looking like, you need to hone down on that specific scenario. So now put me in that all white neighborhood and I've only ever done stops against black guys. All right, that's something we should take a look at. Like, McCary there's only white people rolling around here, and he never stops any of them. He only stops black people. Okay, then you got an argument there. But like, when I'm in a community filled with all white people and 97% of my stops are male whites, who compromise the majority of perpetrators in that precinct, that makes sense. Like, I don't know what we're talking about here.
Yeah. No, it will be interesting with this quality of life program that they put in place. I'd like to see what summonses they give out, or who they stopping. I mean, are they going to look at that and say, oh, basically we're stopping, and, like you said, you go into a community, it's predominantly black, or it's predominantly white, or predominantly Hispanic, or predominantly Asian. I mean, that's the people you're going to be stopping, right? So, I mean, are they going to look at those figures and then turn around and say, well, you're doing racist stops also here because you're stopping everybody, in a predominantly white neighborhood, but you're stopping, the blacks or whatever. So I mean, it's convoluted, and however they want to, push that number, that's what they do. That they change that number so that it fits their narrative. How you become racist at that. So I mean, and now with body worn cameras, again, like I said earlier, I don't know how anybody can really, prove that you're not stopping the right people, because you're based on what your information that you get. So
there's a guy, Ron Leyson, in the chat. You ever hear him?
No, where is he? He's AWOL right now. I think I should suspend him if he's AWOL.
That's it, right? What do they do? They'll see if he's malingering, right? Is that
malingering, yeah.
He's a malingerant. That's it. So, and then Golden Girls 2 is coming out, and they're doing the casting. And then my personal pick for Sophia on the Golden Girls set is Lincoln Wrestler. I think that he looks like the grandma in Golden Girls. So, he weighs in on this too. If we could pull that one up.
Doing this the right way and doing this better. Why are you so certain that everything is right when the data is so deeply disturbing?
So I just don't think it's fair to say we're not doing anything or have any concerns, that our only concern is just like, we have robust procedures in place, right? Not only do we have the trainings, not implicit bias training, et cetera. Not only do we deploy specifically to where we see the crime happening, but as I explained earlier, there's mechanisms by which officers can be held accountable if this is true. I just think we have a difference of opinion on it. And let me just say one other thing. I'm not willing I'm not trying to indict Night Clue. I had one specific concern with that.
I know, I get, and I gave you a different data point to show that that's a ridiculous argument. I mean, it's a ridiculous argument. You want to look at the health department found that 54% of white people in New York City were likely to have driven in the last 30 days, 40% of black people, and 32% of Latino people. Black and Latino people are much less likely to be in cars. They in aggregate represent 49% of the population, but are far less likely to be drivers on the road than that percent, yet are 62% of the stops and 90% of the people arrested. The data is deeply, deeply disturbing.
Can I comment on that?
Please.
I guess this is what I would say, and be more than happy to have ongoing conversations, your place, my place, wherever you want to do it. Okay, but for the sake of this, if white people in the DOH study are committing more traffic violence, right? Just quoting them. If you have less police officers there, it's not going to be interdicted the same way when you have more police officers in different areas.
But come on.
I don't think that's a cop-out. I think that's...
But let's go through this then. You're saying East New York, you gave an example where there were 55,000 people stopped last year. In the 9-4, which is a smaller precinct, it's not all apples to oranges. Not every precinct has the same number of people. There were 13,000 people stopped last year. The 9-4 is Greenpoint and Williamsburg. I represent 88% of it. I mean, roughly. Are you trying to tell me that there are 4.5 times as many officers in the 7-5 as in the 9-4?
I actually don't know what the exact.
But that's my point is that's ridiculous. There aren't 5 times as many officers in the 7-5 as the 9-4, and and the argument that every officer just means the same amount of stops doesn't make sense. What we're seeing is racially disparate enforcement and racially disparate arrests. And I don't see why the department wouldn't come to this hearing in good faith and say there are trends in this night clue data that are concerning and that require us to shift our enforcement approaches. It shouldn't be that we have to go to court and sue the police department to recognize illegal disparities and racial disparities in enforcement, like has happened on stop and frisk. It shouldn't be that. We should be working collaboratively together to say, hey, there are troubling signs here. We shouldn't be enforcing these issues only in Black and Latino communities. That's not right. That's not fair. That's not the way the police department is supposed to work. But that's what the data shows. And I don't hear any recognition of a deeply, deeply troubling report that came out last week.
So I hear what you were saying. All I'm going to say in response to that is, I feel like there are so many different data points and so many factors that need to be taken into consideration. I'm just not sure the 6-page night clue report, which cites to the Census Bureau information about surveys of drivers, is enough for us to have a substantive conversation about it.
But take the surveys of drivers aside. The enforcement data, the disparate enforcement data is serious. And you could offer some context that makes it less of an extreme disparity as perhaps it appears, but the disparity persists. And I don't think that Commissioner Tisch's department wants to be operating a department where 90% of the people getting arrested for traffic stops are Black and Latino when they represent such a modest minority of the drivers on the road. That's not right. That's not fair. That's not the NYPD that she aspires to, or that I aspire to, or this council aspires to. And it's not what's happening every day. And so I'm disappointed that you've come to this hearing basically saying this data point I disagree with. I'm not going to engage seriously in this report, despite there being really, really, really troubling trends that we are seeing, that we know about in our communities, that those of us, we see this, we talk to our constituents. The data here is a compelling citywide analysis of that. I'm disappointed. I'm not hearing the recognition, the awareness, or the plan for how we're going to do better moving forward. And I hope the department takes this hearing to say that we do need to do better, and we do need to shift our policies and approaches and tactics to make sure that we have less racially disparate enforcement than we do today.
I think you're right. You said it before, that he needs to be better prepared. And when I spoke to Ron earlier today, I do believe the 7.5 does have more officers than the 9.4. I mean, I think he should have had that data. I think he could have just thrown that back right back at him. So I mean, I don't know, but yeah, he was terrible.
Yeah, watching two people go back and forth, him and Caban, and then him and Rustler. So 3 people going back and forth that were never cops, that truly don't understand what they're talking about. It's honestly, it's like it was a waste of time. It's a waste of city. It's a waste of tax. It's a waste of city money. It's a waste of their salaries. Like, and all they're doing is spreading hate. And honestly, that lawyer, first of all, I don't know why he's answering for the department. And that's another thing. Like, why is the police commissioner not there?
Right.
Why is Shell not there? Why is Bumble and Daughtry not there? Like, bring it. If those are your dream team, if those are your guys, they should be there to speak for you. This guy has no business speaking for the department. He did a horrible job. He didn't know what he was talking about. And I don't blame him. He's not a cop. He doesn't know those areas. He doesn't know the difference between the 9.4 and the 7.5. You could ask any cop on here. They'll do the breakdown for you. He doesn't know the crime data. He's literally letting the lie spew that the NYPD is systemically racist, and he looks like a dumb, bumbling idiot. And it's going to make that lie grow further and further. And like, I don't know what Jessica Tisch thinks of this, but like, if I had to grade his performance, I mean, the lowest mark you could give him, whatever it is, if it's an F, he gets an F minus. Like, he did horrible representation. Obey sat there like a deer in headlights. You're 100% right. I could tell that she didn't like agree with what was happening, but she didn't say anything. And even the inspector, I know it's not his place, but like, they sat up there, they got destroyed. Yeah.
No, I mean, if they really want, or they get a breakdown of the summonses per precinct. I mean, it's not a hard thing to do, right? Everything is pretty much computerized and stuff. The other thing is I still know a few police officers out there, and my understanding was they were maybe writing one or two summonses a day, not a day, a month, one or two a month. So I mean, where's that racial profiling, and where's all that? Where's the disparity? It just doesn't seem feasible. I mean, and it just seems like this was for them to get on their soapboxes, the city council members, and just kind of like, oh, we're going to lambaste the NYPD. Maybe that's why the upper echelons didn't send appropriate representatives, or did the guy that just graduated law school and said we'll send him, the intern there. So I mean, the thing is with we talk about car stops and stuff. I don't know. Did you happen to see the new Netflix movie about the bombing in Oklahoma City Home? Oklahoma, was it?
No, I didn't see it.
Oh man, you got to watch it. It's really good. So it was back in, actually, because the anniversary just happened. It was April 19th, 1995, and basically Timothy McVeigh, as we all know, detonated the ANFO, or fertilizer, and killed I think 168 people, 19, including 19 children, right? And I think it was based on his belief that Waco in Texas wasn't handled appropriately when the FBI ended up raiding the Waco compound. But the trooper, Charles Hanger, he originally was going to respond to the scene, but he was told, no, we need to keep some units back. So he stayed back in the field. He didn't respond. So he sees a car with no license plate. Minor infraction, right? Similar to what the city council wants to eliminate, right? Those little minor infractions. And when he pulls the car over, it happens to be Timothy McVeigh. So we talk about, these, pulling people over for minor infractions. We talk about pulling people over, for racial reasonings, but whatever the case is, these things help solve crimes, and they're important to do. So, just to push that to the side, these people they need to literally, I remember years ago, I don't know if they still do ride-alongs, right? They would literally put people in the police car and let them see what it's really like to do law enforcement. But they'd rather sit in the city council and argue with an attorney and a deer in the headlights and not say anything, So I mean, but those are important things. So.
No, and then like my other thing is like, where's the pushback from the NYPD to be like, well, what are you advocating for, council member? Are you like, they're like, we need to address and stop this disparity. So are you saying we should police based on race? Are you accusing us of being racist? Because that's what I heard from Tiffany Caban. We need to even out these numbers, sprinkle some whites in those numbers, sprinkle some Hasidics, some Asian Pacific Islanders, bring these numbers down. It's like, wait, what? Like, are we looking at the crime data? Should we take the crime data, or do you want us to police based off race? Because that's what I'm hearing here. And, the fact that nobody's willing to say this, the mayor, who's a black man himself, the police commissioner, if nobody's going to be willing to tell the truth of what they're really asking for, I mean, they're asking for race-based policing. They're sitting here. You have Lincoln Ressler. I think his father owns like an investment firm, founded an investment firm. He went to a high-profile school talking about equity, right? Talking about all this stuff. He wants to even all this stuff out. But really, at the end of the day, what you're saying is that you want the police department to police based on race so that the data is even. You don't see a disparity in the data. That's what he's asking for. And it makes no sense. You're asking for race-based policing, and no one calls them out on it. Like literally, it's literally just us. Like, I don't even think the other people out there even grasp it. It's literally just this platform. Like, you're advocating for racism, and no one's willing to say it. So Jessica Tish, if you need anything, call any one of us up. Ron, Rob, Eric, Sal, Marlon, myself. We'll roll out of bed and we'll do 1,000 times better job than that lawyer and Obey and that inspector did. Because that was an embarrassment. It was an embarrassment.
Yeah, it really was. It was like you just said. It's basically telling, all right, we're gonna turn the department in a different direction. So we only want you to stop at white people so that we can bring the level up, so that enough white people get stopped. It's even. So yeah, is it racist at that point? Yeah, absolutely. You know, if you're not doing it based on information and stuff that you're provided, then it's it becomes you know, like a little bit of a struggle back and forth. I mean, you got to base it on the crime and what you're looking at. So, I mean, it's ridiculous. I often wonder, what the, I don't know if we have it, but the statistics on the speed cameras, right? So I was in Staten Island over the weekend. I mean the other day. I was out the other day, not over the weekend, and I had my Waze on, right? So every 15 minutes, not even 15 minutes, every 5 miles, it was speed camera head.
Everywhere.
I literally was gonna send a message to Waze headquarters and say, hey, when you're in Staten Island, do me a favor, tell me when there is no camera, because I would just assume there's a camera on every block, because it was totally out of control. Like I mean, and everybody's doing, you know, not only 30, they're doing 25. I mean, it's like sick. So I would love to know the statistics on that, and where are those cameras getting the most bang for their bucks? Is it in white communities? Is it in brown communities? Is it in black communities? I mean, you know, is there a racial divide with that as well? I mean, I don't. I know you live it. You know, you have some houses in Staten Island, and I was scared to drive. I mean, right here, it's, you know, I mean, I know that they say that there's a decrease, and you know, that decreases accidents and stuff. But I mean, I'd like to know how much revenue they've done from it. You know, how much have they gotten, and who's been getting those summonses? Because I guarantee you, are they looking at that? Could they say that? I would love for them to say, hey, there's too many speed cameras because it's affecting too many black and brown people, and we're giving the summonses to, or is it because they just take a picture of your car and they don't know who's driving the car, you know? But it was astonishing. I was amazed.
No, they're not worried about those. Only when they could point to racist. Only when they could do like claim racism against black and brown. Like, oh, speed cameras are disproportionate in white residential neighborhoods. Like, there is a huge disproportionate amount of cameras in Staten Island, and I would always ask all the politicians, every single one of them that's Staten Island politician, is this what I get for voting for you? I just get abused and you do nothing. Like, this what I get for voting for you. Like, I get a speed camera everywhere. It takes you an hour to go 7 miles. And honestly, I think traffic's been worse. I think accidents have been worse. Whatever data that is, I would push back, because I think real life tells a lot different than whatever is said there. And it's honestly disgraceful. And like their way of thinking fails at so many levels on so many things. And they'll just ignore it. They just ignore it. Like when it came to the mandate, when it came to exemptions, I posed all those questions. How come the numbers disproportionately affected male Christians? Nothing to be said, right? Oh yeah, nothing to be said there, you know? So yeah, so but like, you know, this speed camera thing, all that. I mean, I just think they're highly incompetent people. And that's what I see when I look at city council. I just see like we could do much better. Eric Dim says the city council wants to cut racial profiling with racial profiling. That's exactly, and even worse, Eric, because they're asking for race-based policing. They want enforcement based upon your race, or lack thereof of enforcement based upon your race, so everything's equitable.
Yeah, don't care about what the crime was or the crime victims. It's just that what is our, like Marlon always says, what is our perception management? We can't be racist, we can't be doing this, but so that means we don't solve the crimes. And if I have a family and I was and my family was, somebody in my family was shot, I wouldn't want you, as a white person, I wouldn't want you stopping male blacks. And I would hope that, if a black and brown family would say the same. Why, if the perpetrator was a male white, don't go and stop male blacks. That does nothing for me, right? I want you to catch the person. I mean, that's the goal of it. So it's very convoluted, the whole system. And I think that they just look to get on their soapbox and show this is what we're doing. They show that they go back to their community meetings or whatever, and they say, this is what I did. I told the NYPD not to do this, and I told the NYPD not to that. And you know what? The bottom line is, I don't think it goes anywhere, right? I mean, it's just rhetoric, and it doesn't help anyway, and it pushes a divide between the community council and law enforcement, when they should be together working at a common goal.
But the problem is there's no strength there. Like, it's like Ron said, he liked the lawyer not answering anything because you're just giving them more fire, something like that. Sorry if I paraphrased it, but I totally disagree. I think you need to come into this meeting very well prepared. And I'm going to give you guys notes because I know you guys are listening to this anyway. So I'm going to give you guys notes. This is what I would do. I would go look at the 1, 2, 3 numbers. I would go pick out the summons numbers from that, and I would show the disproportionate amount of arrests and summonses that are issued to the white drivers there. It's going to be overwhelmingly disproportionate. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say, what do you want us to do here? These white drivers are disproportionately, it appears based upon the data, that they're targeted based upon what you're saying, how we're targeting black and brown communities. So based upon the data in this precinct, what is your plan to even out these numbers? And they're going to sit there like a deer in headlights, and you're going to end this nonsense that's been going on for the last 10 years. Because, and it's been going on for the last 10 years because we're too cowardly to talk about race. And it's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. We're all, we might have started out different. We're on an even keel. We're on an even playing field, especially when you're talking about law enforcement, majority minority law enforcement to a majority minority city council. And you're going to sit there and just fan flames of racism that doesn't exist. You're looking up for rocks to find it. And when you can't find it, and I honestly think you could shut it down right there. Do it right there. And what's going to be his response? What would you like us to do to even out the numbers? There's all these white people, got 97% of the summonses are white people, and they're obviously targeting white people in the 1, 2, 3 precinct, right, Mr. Wrestler or Mrs. Kaban, or they, them, whatever you guys want to be called. What would you like us to do to make that equitable?
Here's the other thing, right? The department touts itself as the most diverse department. So if the majority, who's giving out the summonses? Is it a majority of male Hispanics and male blacks? Are they giving out the summonses? Are they summoning also male blacks and male Hispanics? So is that considered racial profiling? Because is an NYPD officer issuing the summons? I mean, let's take a look at that, because I don't think they'll get the numbers that they want. They'll show that, across the board. I think all the officers are issuing the summonses, and it doesn't matter who they're issuing them to. So how can you say that? I mean, unless you're going to say that, because he's a police officer, he's a male black, but he became a police officer, so he's racist now. So, I mean, they don't look at everything. And I think they should have. I mean, you can have an attorney that doesn't answer the questions and doesn't lead into things, but I think they could have shut her down. They could have shut him down with the facts, because they have nowhere to go then. If they had based facts on it, I think they would have shut him. They shut the city council down, and they would not know what to say.
I agree. You got to come in there well prepared, and I don't even think it takes much of preparation if you're a competent person. I mean, like, if you know your job, I mean, like, this is your job. You're in the New York City Police Department. How don't you know it? Right. People on here now making fun of me that I was in building maintenance. Yeah, I was, but guess what? I know that stuff cold. You could drop me in that city council meeting tomorrow. Lincoln Russell's going to ask me 3 questions, and they're going to move up. Like, that's going to be the end of it. They're going to go look for another target.
No, I mean, you're a smart man. I mean, even though you started Impact, you made a good career for yourself. That's for another story.
Funny stuff.
But I think I'd like to, if we could touch on the shooting, right? The shooting that occurred, was it yesterday? Somebody told me that Kaz was wearing his Deputy Commissioner of Operations jacket. Did you see that? I didn't see it in the video, but somebody told me he wore the wrong jacket. He was in such a rush to get out of his house, he didn't know what jacket to grab. So, or maybe he picked one of the wrong 7 cars for that day, and it had the wrong jacket in it. But that's what I had heard. He had his wrong jacket on. But like I said I mean, you guys did a great job. If anybody hasn't seen it, check out the podcast this morning with Eric and John. Also, Eli was excellent on there. Elijah, I'm sorry. He did a great job. I loved his honesty, truthfully, like Eric had said. But that shooting, I think it was the WABC was reporting that it was from the CRT. I don't know who did the shooting, if that person was from the CRT, but it looks like they were running plates, right? Because they were looking for stolen vehicles, and I think they ran a plate with a Pennsylvania plate, right? It was a Porsche, I believe, and it comes back stolen. So they said that. Listen, I've been on doing midnights. I've been in a lot of followings. We never pursued cars on the midnight. We only followed, right? And our trick was this: we would never put our lights on, and we would keep the radio down here. And I would key the radio if I was the recorder. I'd key the radio and say, "Central, we're following a 16 vehicle, which means stolen, and it's going in such and such directions." And then all the rest of the late tour guys knew that they would come in and they would box the car in, and the guy couldn't get out. And that was easy for us. But I'll tell you a quick story, and then I'd like to go into this shooting. But we see a car comes up stolen. We start going after it. He sees us obviously behind us, so he takes off. He flies up 161st Street, hits Prospect Avenue. The car flips over and hits into the L pillar, right? So we're literally right behind him. As the good cops that we were, we stayed. We didn't drive away, because we know that happens once in a while, and it didn't burst into flames. But we ended up. I pulled the guy out of the driver's side, and he's got no leg. Like, one of his legs is gone, and I'm like, holy crap! Did his leg get severed in the accident? But there's no blood. So then I'm like, all right, well maybe a prosthetic leg or something like that. So we take him, and me and my partner drive him back, and you had to walk in front of the lieutenant at the desk, right? So I got this guy, I'm on one side, my partner's on the other. This guy's hopping in as we go. And the desk officers back then were looking at us like, what the hell are you bringing me?
Yeah.
So as we're coming up, we go, hey, we got criminal possession, stolen property. Like Ron said earlier this morning, I spot on with that. You don't know if it's a GLA because of where it was stolen. But we got criminal possession, stolen property. Where's the car? Well, it's overturned on Prospect Avenue. Yeah, great. So then Brendan Sullivan, another great cop, walks in with the leg on his shoulder, and he goes, "I got the leg." I was like, "Oh man, thank God!" I was like, "Holy mackerel!" I thought the poor guy was gonna bleed out on us, but it was a crazy night that night. But the desk officer was a little happier that we found the guy's leg. But yeah, that was the trick. So I mean, in this case, they said that they terminated the pursuit or whatever. They just said, okay, we're not going to follow it or pursue anymore. I'm a little hesitant to believe that, because your blood's rushing. You go, you want to get the guy, whatever. But they said that. So and then what? He ends up going down a couple exits and then coming back, and they set up a roadblock. So I don't know. What do you think about a roadblock, John?
We talked about it this morning. I'm like, I specifically remember you can never do a roadblock. It's like it says prohibited. You know, I know the orders changed a little bit a couple of times, but yeah, it's prohibited. Like roadblocks are prohibited. I thought the press conference, you know, I thought that Shell Daughtry, the COFID, whatever his name is, I can't think of it. But I thought they looked like they saw a ghost. And I thought like, wow, this does not look good. Whatever's going on in their heads is not good. And honestly, I think they spelled out that it was a bad shooting. Honestly, I think that's what I watched because I you know, if you listen to, you know, I don't know if we're going to play it here, but if you listen to what Shell says here, is he said that the car was in close vicinity or some type of verbiage like that. The car was in close vicinity to the cop and the cop fired. And in order to fire on a car, that you have that fear for your life, serious physical injury or death is likely to occur. And when it was related to a car, that car is going to be used to ram you as a weapon. And that's not what he spelled out there, you know, hoping he just did a bad job, but I don't think so. I think that they intentionally put that messaging out there. And, you know, I didn't see, like, Kaz wasn't looking to jump in front of the camera and get on the microphone.
Right.
That was another tell to me. And just like they weren't there with their usual puffed out. It was like, it was a different press conference, man. It was definitely a different press conference.
Yeah, he was definitely bumbling. You want to play it for us? I think we should just listen to him for.
I'm Chief of Department John Shell. I'm here to provide you an update regarding an officer-involved shooting which occurred early this evening in the Canarsie section of Brooklyn. The information I'm about to provide is preliminary and subject to change. Approximately 8:06 p.m. tonight, members of the community response team were on the Bell Parkway around Bay Street when they observed a suspicious Porsche with suspicious plates. The officers conducted a plate check on this vehicle, and the plates came back to be stolen. It was later discovered that this vehicle, in fact, was stolen out of Pennsylvania. When the officers attempted to pull the car over at Cropsey Avenue, the vehicle exited, but then at a high rate of speed, got back on the Bell Parkway eastbound. At this time, our officers did not pursue, but radioed ahead to adjoining precincts that the stolen vehicle was headed in their direction. Several exits away from Cropsey Avenue, at exit 13, officers tried to intercept this vehicle, at which time this Porsche, at a high rate of speed, maneuvered onto the service road in direction of several officers who set up a roadblock to stop this vehicle. At least one of these officers, the Porsche came into close proximity, nearly striking him. At this time, the officer discharged one bullet, striking the driver of this vehicle. The vehicle proceeded to go to one more exit to Pennsylvania Avenue, where it struck another department vehicle. The passenger in this vehicle was quickly apprehended, and our officers performed life-saving measures on the driver. The driver was removed to Brookdale Hospital, where he succumbed to his injuries. Everything I described to you was captured on body-worn camera. Our officers were removed to local hospital and are being treated. The driver of the stolen vehicle is a male, 28. He's on federal probation for stolen vehicles, interstate transport of stolen vehicles out of Pennsylvania. At this point, I'll take any questions you have. At this time, right now, no.
Was any officer struck?
No, the one officer of the vehicle at a high rate of speed came in close proximity to him, and that was the firing officer.
That's Rocky. The whole press conference was Rocky. You know, it's almost like he was looking for ways to justify the shooting when he didn't have either the facts or he was like making things up. It just didn't seem sincere. Like usually he's a little more polished and he has his script down. This looks like he was trying to sugarcoat something. Now, I'm not saying I don't know if the MOS who discharged was, driven at and he felt he was in danger. I mean, we were always taught. I mean, like you had said earlier today, the first thing is if your car is coming at you, get out of the way, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is if you were, like you said earlier today on your podcast, if you were in an alley and there was no means to get out of the way, then you were justified. You were justified in shooting at that car to stop that threat. But when he specifically says it came close or near, I don't know. I mean, that just seems like he was fishing to say something. Now they haven't. I'm sure they probably haven't interviewed him yet, because he was the one that discharged his gun, and so is it based on body worn camera and based on witness statements? Probably, but it just seems like it's similar to didn't he killed somebody? He's some poor guy, right? So I mean, he said accidental. So I don't know. Was it actually could it have been accidental? It could also have been accidental. I mean, there's a lot of variables there.
A lot of things, but the way they spelled it out, I mean, if I was a betting man, I'm betting on that they declared that a bad shooting, because he didn't spell out anything that would lead you to believe that the officer was justified. Now, I'm not saying that is the case. I'm saying based upon what they said there, and then he was totally rocky, I wonder what his blood alcohol level was at that moment. It was either that or he was going through some type of stress or trauma period, because he was definitely slurring his words. He definitely was not the same. People are saying that he's not a good speaker. I disagree. I kind of think he's actually pretty well. He does pretty well in the media. I think he's, I think he is a good speaker. So I don't know what that was there. But do you think Daughtry was there on overtime or?
Oh yeah. I was wondering. Like I've seen that you guys posted that he's still listed as a first grade detective. So I don't understand. Like I knew a couple of people that made assistant commissioner and stuff. They didn't maintain their rank. They were put in a civilian position, and that was their designation. I don't see how he can continue to accrue. I mean, usually anybody I ever known, they've taken, either a leave of absence and stop their pay,
yep,
and then receive their pay as whatever position they were, assistant commissioner or whatever. So I don't understand how he continues to stay on the books and how he continues to collect, and especially how does he get puts. I really would like to know who's signing his overtime slips. That would be an important question, unless he's signing them himself or Adams is signing them. I don't know, but I don't understand how he can accrue overtime in a managerial position like that, right? So we know that 2 stars and above don't get overtime. They can get time back for a certain amount of time that they worked for the week, and then they get like a day back, which half of them never use because they work right up until the 63rd birthday anyway. But captains, deputy inspectors, deputy chiefs, they can make overtime, but it's a crazy ratio. It's a straight time. You literally have to work 90 hours of straight overtime, and then you get paid for 30 hours. Like you literally give up 60 hours of time. And I mean, yeah, is it good because you can, is it pensionable? Yeah, it is. It adds a little bit, but think about the time that you're giving up. And guys would always do the math. Is my 1/60th, 1/60th for each year is that going to be greater than the overtime I make if I just stay on the books? That was always a $60 million question, but I don't see how he's actually able to collect. I mean, it's criminal. It's criminal. He's collecting. He's double dipping.
It's grand.
Yeah.
Grand. It's literally good. You guys did a segment where I actually got a clip of it. I'm going to put it out a little later today. where you guys talked about, he was showing the press conference with Jeffrey Madry when he was defending himself, and how his lawyer put up a stat that there were 450 members of the NYPD in 24 that made over $100,000 in overtime. Guess who was one of them? Kaz Daughtry. He made $360,000. I mean, it is 100% criminal. And you know, I remember Dermot Shea retiring from the police department to become a deputy commissioner. I believe he became a deputy commissioner of operations. And about 8 months later, he came back.
Right.
He got reinstated before his year was up, and they made him the chief of detectives prior to making him the police commissioner. And so, you know, and that, I'm just telling that story because it just goes to show, all right, $328,000 was his rate of pay. So, you know, I mean, it's ginormous. I mean, the salaries are ginormous. He's going to blow out any 3-star chief's pension, just based upon those numbers alone. You know, 280 plus you're making overtime. It is criminal. It's being done. You know, Marlon says it's being done because he doesn't have 20 years, so they're trying to get him to his 20 years. But it's also being done, you know, because people say, oh, he knows where the bodies are buried or whatever. I say he's possibly one of the victims. Whatever it is, you know, probably a mixture of both in there. But it's totally being done to not only carry him to his 20th, but to ensure that he's going to make a lot of money. And, you know, and then, you know, the misuse of funds that go along with that. I mean, it's in the millions. I mean, people should be in jail over this.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous. I truthfully don't understand. I agree with what Reed said. You know, the same thing with Phil Pulaski when he went from deputy commissioner of ops and then went back to, you know, chief of detectives. None of these people double dipped and they got 2 paychecks. I mean, I just don't understand. I mean, I don't even know, like, you know, is it allowable in the city charter? Like, I thought that once you became a mere managerial position, you had to give up your pension and stuff. I mean, I would have to look into that, but I don't, unless the mayor is signing a waiver or whatever. I mean, I knew that if you left the NYPD and then even tried to get back in the police department or anywhere else in New York, right? You had to get a waiver from the governor to collect your pension if it was a pension system, right? There was a waiver, and then at a certain time, I don't know if it was Cuomo or I believe it was Cuomo. He stopped signing them. Like it wouldn't sign them. Like if you went from, you know, one law enforcement to another and you were able to collect another pension, no, he wouldn't sign that waiver, and you lost, either you had to stop your pension or whatever. But he can continue to collect is beyond reasoning, and I firmly believe it is criminal. I mean that should be definitely. We need Sam Antar to start doing some background checks here and get some paperwork on this and look it up, you know, because it's sick.
Yes, Sam's been busy with the Letitia James thing. I mean,
Yeah.
he's been on Benny Johnson like 100 times, Newsmax, Fox. So I feel bad for Sam right now. He's like, he said, didn't Chief Joe Resnick, didn't he get 2 checks out as a UMOS due to age and then became a deputy commissioner in IB? So a little different with Resnick, and it's actually in the city charter, and it was completely legal what was happening with him. So at the age of 65, you can collect your pension and still work for the city and collect a check at the age of 65. So, and I just want to like be clear. I'm not saying, I don't think that Kaz Daughtry's double dipping, like he's getting 2 salaries. What I believe is happening is Kaz Daughtry is a first-grade detective. He was never officially promoted to assistant commissioner. He was never officially promoted to deputy commissioner. He was never officially promoted to deputy mayor of public safety. He's being carried as a first-grade detective. Yeah, he might have got the ceremony, but it was one of these. You're a deputy commissioner, not really as per payroll, but even with that, it's illegal. There's a reason why UMOS's pensions are different. Is because of the risk factor, right? That's why you get these additional benefits. That's why you accrue these additional funds as opposed to civilians in the police department. He's been operating as a civilian for almost 3 years now, but getting all the benefits of a UMOS. But when he gets complaints, he operates as a civilian and takes all the benefits of that while pretending to be an MOS. So It's completely. It's like it's a little. It's less money than as if he was double dipping, but still, I'm talking. This is grand larceny. Like, it is criminal. It doesn't matter, you know. And who knows? The way it is, maybe he is getting too. Maybe he is. Who the hell knows?
Maybe,
I'm
yeah.
gonna put anything past Adams. I mean, every law and rule in New York City is a mere suggestion for Eric Adams and his group.
Yeah. I mean, I see, again, I just don't see him. I mean, how much overtime is he putting in? I mean, will like, I think Marlon mentioned it. We'll find out next year from the city, you know, when the payroll data comes out. You know, is he in fact still on the payroll? Is he still collecting overtime? Yeah, I guess, you know, I mean, it's I just don't understand it. It's just it's definitely criminal. I mean, he just seems whoever Adams is helping him out, or whoever's doing it. I don't know. I question also that, let's say the Adams administration loses the election, which I predict happens. Is Kaz Dortchy going to go back to the police department as a detective first grade?
It's a great question, bro. I mean, I guess it depends on the mayor if Adams is able to work a deal. I don't think he stays much longer in most police departments. I think he's kind of gone. Honestly, I think Tish would have got rid of him and Shell if she could. You know, that's just my personal opinion. And Kinsella. That's my personal opinion. I don't have any private information on that. That's what I think. Because I know I would, you know. So I'm just thinking, like, if you're a rational person, you know, what would you do if you're trying to clean up the department, get rid of all the people who made the department look like a mess, right? So I think that's simple. So I think they're gone, but I think Kaz is young enough to. I think he could rebound off of this, even if he's out of the department. I think he could potentially land a pretty big job. I mean, and then ultimately he'll fall into mediocrity and you'll never hear about him again. But like, you know, it'll be like what's her face when she went for the civilian job and she came back 3 months later. They're like, wait, oh, I have to do work? Yeah, no, we need you to do something.
Then he can go to another agency and get more jackets. Then he just have a lot more stuff to do. So
yeah.
But yeah, we've been going for what, hour 47. Please hit the share and like button for us. I mean, we thank everybody in the chat. Excellent conversation. John, you want to talk about anything else, or?
I mean, no. I mean, you know, I think, you know, I think we nailed it home. You know, me and Eric was supposed to do a show in the morning tomorrow, but I don't think I'm going to be able to make it, so we're not going to do that. We're going to have a candidate, Ishmael. I'm gonna mangle his last name, but he's running for city controller. We're gonna interview some controller candidates too, just to see like where they're at. I think it's big because it concerns our pension, but we're probably gonna push that back to next week. Sal Greco has a big show tomorrow. You guys got to check that out. So Serena Thompson did a big press conference today. And basically there was a supermodel who is alleging that, there you go, Ishmael Malave. So he's running for city controller, but I think we're going to get him on next week. But definitely check out Sal Greco tomorrow. He has a supermodel coming on along with Serena Townsend, along with retired NYPD Chief Michael Osgood. It's all related to Harvey Weinstein. There was an incident that happened back in 2015 when Cy Vance was Manhattan DA. And what happened was this supermodel gets put on the casting couch with Harvey Weinstein. She has to make the decision. Do you want to work in this town? If you want to work in this town, you want to work. She did, you know, like I always say, Adams did the Harvey Weinstein later on. You put this in your body if you want to work. That's what Harvey Weinstein did to this girl in 2015, sexually assaulted her. Special Victims Division did a controlled phone call on him. They had irrefutable proof and evidence, according to her, that there was, in fact, a crime occurred. And Cy Vance decided not to prosecute. Chief Michael Osgood said it never sat well with him. I guess he then had made contact through Serena with the supermodel. And tomorrow, for their first media appearance, they'll be on the Sal Greco show, detailing this out. And you know, I think, you know, a lot of times this platform gets overlooked, but the two big, I think this is going to be a national story too. I think you're going to start to see Harvey Weinstein national media again, the same way you're seeing Letitia James in the media. And I don't want Sal's head to get too big, and I don't want to give us too much of a pat on the back either. But at the same time, I think it has to be recognized that both of those stories came out of the Finest Unfiltered off the Sal Greco show before they went national. And I'm pretty sure this one's going to go national too.
Yeah, no, I think Sal does a great job with his guests and stuff. Shout out to Arbad. We usually have what do we have? We have iced tea and scones on the 1700-hour show. So, but thank you, Arbad. Yeah, so make sure you check in that on Friday. You guys will be back on Friday then, John?
Friday, we'll be doing the roundtable. We're going to go through the week. I'm sure there'll be more news to go into. So, but yeah, Friday we'll be back, do the roundtable as usual. And then, so I'm looking forward to that. There's a lot of stuff going on. So.
Yeah, good. And then I don't know if you saw earlier, Ron mentioned that his wife and child were discharged from the hospital. So that's good news. And Ron and I will be back then next Wednesday on the podcast on the Finest Unfiltered, the executive perspective at 17:05 hours or 5:05 p.m. So John, thanks again for jumping in. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you, you're a lot more handsomer than Ron, but that's my personal opinion. There he is.
There he is, Ron. That's it. Well, yeah, but I am looking forward. Honestly, in all honesty, I do want to hear you guys break down. I'm hoping at some point, even if it's not next week, to hear you break down Operation Impact versus field training, because I honestly have a lot of thoughts of it on my own too. So I'm curious what you guys had to say about it, and I've never heard anyone really discuss it. So I'm pretty interested in what you guys are going to say about it.
Yeah, no, I think it'll definitely be an interesting conversation, and we'll be able to break it down nicely because both Ron and I were impact captains, so we kind of have a little bit of thing, and then we've stayed on the NYPD, so we were able to experience some of you excellent impact officers. So it'll be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, no, looking forward to it. I am, like I said, whenever it is. So we'll redo everything for those of you guys that jumped on here, and we'll just do like a redo of Operation Impact. So with actually Ron this time and not me.
There you go. But yeah. All right, everybody, thanks for checking in, watching. Hit the share and like button for us, and make sure you follow the Finest Unfiltered. John, thanks again, brother.
Thank you, Chief.